Good morning. Today is Tuesday. It is the 17th February. That's the most important news. Now Jesse Jackson, the Reverend, dies. A rights defender. Civilians who promoted demonstrations. Junto a Martin Luther King Jr. And whoever was a presidential candidate died at the age of 84. There will be public tributes at various parts of the country. The latest on the Guffey case. Police rule out Nancy's relatives. Who three as suspects in the disappearance. The investigation continues. Focused on the man who was recorded. You'll see what President Trump says about possible responsible parties, and we will connect live with Tukon. We are still there in the land. We also told you about the tragedy of the last few hours. There was a fatal shooting at a school hockey game in Rhode Island. 2 dead and 3 people injured. It's the balance. The alleged shooter took his own life. It is believed that one more person intervened, avoiding more victims. Religious arrested. May we not let ourselves be overcome by fear? That we have to continue despite the persecution. This is the complaint made by a Christian church in New Jersey. In the area, very close to New York, it is reported. Multiple IC operations and several arrests. We have a chronicle from Union City. The consequences of the storm. Floods and evacuation notices mobilize Southern California. What is? Prepare to receive more rain and low temperatures. There are alerts especially in areas affected by fires. One storm after another. There are 3 storms that should be affecting this week. Locations. From Southern California, where right now 11 million people are at risk of flooding that could be severe. The weather forecast in brief. Hearings. Downplays the importance. Trump reacts to statements. Delcy Rodriguez, the person in charge of Venezuela, she maintains that Nicolas Maduro is the legitimate leader of that country. But the president considers it a political statement that she had to do. An athlete who makes history for being the first Mexican classified in skiing. Background and the first woman to do so. She is Regina Martinez, and she is also a doctor and immigrant here in the United States. Let's go. To know your story. Ultra-processed formulas for babies. A new study warns that most of these foods have more sugars, additives and sodium and less nutritional value. We asked a pediatrician health risks and how find the best food for our children. And we talk about it with you here at Telemundo News, now. Hello, good morning, it's good that they are here. It's good that you are here. Since you stay, we promise you that they leave informed with what they have to know. This morning, how are you? How has it been for everyone, all of them? Happy Tuesday. Thanks to those who worked yesterday on a holiday. Hey, at this time we start with the news. Last minute. Because this morning Jesse died. Jackson, one of the most recognized civil rights activists in this country. He was 84 years old. This African-American pastor was very involved in the civil movement. In the 60s achieved tangible improvements for minorities in the United States. Worked alongside Martin Luther King Jr. He also aspired twice to the presidency in the Democratic primaries. Back in the 80s and in 2017 he revealed that suffered from Parkinson's. His family says he died peacefully, surrounded by his people and in writing. They highlighted that he inspired millions of people. Funeral services will have place in Chicago. We will also continue to pay attention to other celebrations that can be planned in the rest of the country, and we are also attentive to the investigation of the disappearance of Nancy Godfrey because authorities in Arizona have ruled out that the family is suspicious of the disappearance. We're live in Tucson with our correspondent Bativ Bedell. Good morning. What is the latest in the case? Good morning, colleagues. At this time we are still waiting for anything new they can reveal about. For example, the glove they found over the weekend. President Donald Trump he has told other media, the New York Post, for example, which kidnappers or suspects. Kidnappers would face the penalty of death if Nancy Godfrey is found dead. This is what the president said. Donald Trump in a statement to New York Post Air. Now let's look at an account of the research and the development in recent days. What was previously a remote and quiet residential complex in Tucson, Arizona. It has been the epicenter for 3 weeks now.
Of its intense investigation and search for 84-year-old Nancy Gothi.
The routine visit of a gardener to the residence. Gothi draws attention because it is a crime scene. Also, the Pima County Sheriff reiterated that no member of the Gothi family is seen as a suspect. He emphasized that to suggest otherwise would be wrong and cruel, and said that the family members are victims. For now, the investigation continues focused on the discovery of a glove thrown 2 miles from the house. Nancy, the glove looks like the ones carried by the hooded man captured in doorbell camera the night of her disappearance. He himself was sent to a genetics laboratory in Florida and now with the DNA samples. The FBI. You should check if you have any connection. This expert not related to the case. Explain what the process would be. Once you have the genetic profile, it is introduced to the CODIS base, which is the national DNA base, where the DNA of people who have had a previous criminal record is found. Previous scenes. This comparison is made to see if it can be found. Any suspect. Meanwhile, Tucson residents. They seem increasingly impatient. It's very strange that there isn't one. Well, the FBI has to put more effort to find it. It seems to me that a long time to solve a case. In the last 16 days, the authorities, they investigated a car and a nearby residence. They momentarily detained 2 people of interest who were later ruled out. On social networks they have reports circulated about the use of a pacemaker detector from the helicopter as part of the search. The Pima County Sheriff limited himself to comment that the pacemaker company has been collaborating since the first day. Well, and let's remember that the FBI has enabled an information line. Anyone who has any data, information that can help with. In this case, you must call 1-800-225-5324. I repeat, 1-800-022-5324 is the number that the FBI has enabled for anyone who has valuable information about the disappearance of Nancy Gothi. Companions, thanks for those live updates. Pending news. And I'm encouraged by the rain that is not so common there in southern Arizona. Meanwhile, in Rhode Island, a new armed attack. They murdered 2 people and 3. Most were injured was when a person opened fire during a school hockey game. The alleged shooter was found dead. Do you think he took his life? Marlon Guzman tells us how it all happened. Moments of terror during a tournament. Hockey between 2 high schools. This when a shootout broke out while families enjoying a game. Student of mixed teams in the Dennis Stadium ice rink. Emblinch in the city of Ket in Rad Island this Monday. Halfway through the game I heard gunshots and at first I thought they were bursting balloons. But when I realized it was a shooting, we ran to the locker room. Take refuge. The city mayor confirmed the death of 2 people whose identity has not been revealed. There are at least 3 more seriously injured people. That is very sad because in our community, things like that shouldn't happen and things like that are always happening. I feel like there is no control. Authorities identify the 56-year-old attacker born Robert Dorgan, but they say identified as Roberta Exposito, who also died at the scene. It was a game between the high schools, Coventry Johnson and the Catholic School. Street. Providence in celebration of the doc degree student night. Both the Academy State. Rafael Providence as Coventry High School confirmed that none of his students missed. There are a lot of things going on in our people are dying almost every day. And this is the second shooting in less than 2 months on RH Island later of the shooting at Brown University, in which 2 lost their lives. Students. They have not yet revealed the identities of the victims. The investigation continues. Active and authorities mentioned that a Good Samaritan helped stop the attacker, preventing this terrible event will end worse. Thanks, Marlon. Let's go to New Mexico now because they're approved to investigate another of the famous Epstein properties. Additionally, a bipartisan committee will seek the testimony of survivors of alleged abuses in that so-called Zorro Ranch, IT is a property that is about 30 miles south of Santa Fe, from the state capital. They also urge residents there to testify. The millionaire investigation looks for loopholes in New Mexico law that they could have allowed Epstein to operate in that state. They are expected to give an interim report of what find in July and conclusions at the end of year. More news, President Trump is downplaying the statements. Recent reports by Dels Rodriguez of the president in charge of Venezuela. Yeah. Did you remember, she said the NBC News interview? We tell it here. That Nicolas Maduro continues to be legitimate leader of Venezuela, and so Trump responded to reporters after those statements. He says he understands her perfectly. Trump considers that Delcy Rodriguez had the political need to respond, thus, and insists that the relationship with Chavismo in Venezuela is going very well. And right there, on the presidential plane, Trump also referred to Cuba. Once again described the Cuban regime as a failed state and confirmed that there are talks with the island. But why? Now they maintain an oil embargo and money. And in fact, they asked him if would consider a military action similar to that of Venezuela. But in Cuba, Trump avoided answering directly and suggests so he doesn't think it's necessary operation of this type. We are going to Southern California because they are preparing for more days of rain. But in the last hours, look, there have been flash floods and storms, electricity affecting parts of Los Angeles County, and there they persist. That's why evacuation warnings, risk of landslides precisely in areas devastated by fires. Denora Perez from Telemundo, Los Angeles, reports from the field. In a single day of rain they finished various intersections of the Sand Valley, Fernando, with so much water that cars had to be moved carefully. Businesses installed sandbags to protect yourself across the avenue. Sarcoy, and despite the precautions, Mr. Javier had to call a tow truck. I stayed here because of the rain. There was a puddle of water there. And then the car got wet and turned off by itself. There is plenty of water around. Want. And well, I didn't know what was going to happen to me. This. The same panorama was seen from Sun Valley, Asta Woodland Hills. As the rain fell, flooding was significant. If they see me, even stop, cross or go on an errand. Boots are required because if they do this, the water channel grows quite a bit, runs quite a bit. Strong and impossible for a pedestrian. Walk regularly. The rainfall also left flooded businesses on the avenue. Melrose in about 15 minutes were underwater. I've had my business here for 40 years. They have to fix this. It is not the first time it floods, concluded the owner of one of the businesses, and in Panganga Canyon Boulevard, a landslide forced the closure of the road that ends at Pacific Coast Highway. Teams, they work clearing mud and debris after Monday's rain. On Highway 101, this car ended up completely turned upside down. And suddenly the car started to. I staggered from side to side and lost control. The driver is well and claims that he was going 40 miles. Time. So we asked him about this rain in the west at my time. Carlos Robles, how are you? Good morning. Good morning to you too, and good morning to all our people who tune in early, especially in the west of the country. You are going to be living a dangerous week because more rain activity should be present. And companions, if you notice, it has been raining during the early hours of the morning. No longer intensely, nevertheless. There are new rounds of precipitations. What are they going to say? Skip. That is why the National Service of Meteorology maintains 11 million people. We are speaking from Los Angeles to San Luis Obispo under flood watch. It means that the scenario meteorological is conducive to see more frequent episodes of precipitation activity. And if you notice, the alerts are not only limited to California. In the mountainous area and extreme north of the country, there are alerts for winter weather. Because while it rains, on the west coast, in the mountains, it is snowing heavily, and see, for today there is more rain, especially tomorrow, mostly in the city of Los Angeles, it's going to continue raining. Even on Wednesday, rainfall will be saying presence. Above all, in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, locations that should be receiving between 2 to 3 inches of rain more than has already been falling, which means that these soils that are already beginning to become saturated to start receiving more rain by putting or making these areas much more vulnerable. In terms of snow, in Sierra Nevada, 8 feet of snow on 6 that were already falling over the weekend. So, things, friends, quite worrying situation there. Yes, so as not to lose track, Carlos. But we are also pending heat that is affecting another part of the country. And it is record heat and above all dangerous. In the sense that in the center of the country there are more than 35 cities that go to be seeing their hottest temperatures this week. Never previously registered for those locations. If you see the forecast, Chicago on Wednesday reaches the range of 64 degrees. We are talking about temperatures up to 30 degrees for that locality above what is normal. In Wichita, likewise, they reach 70, and in Dallas, already flirting with the range of 80 degrees. We are in February in one of the moments that should be colder for these locations in the country. Meanwhile, as the wind is blowing strong and the air is very dry, the National Weather Service has issued to 13 million people, which are surveillance and fire warnings, why the wind will be blowing with intensity of up to tropical storm over 40 miles per hour. And this with very dry conditions may be generating companions that fires develop and that, above all, they can spread quickly. So be very careful. It is a day not to make barbecues or throw em more like cigarettes at what is the Earth's surface, because it will be very dangerous dry conditions and windy in those locations. Yes. To think about our environment more than our taste at those moments. We know that, and we know that as it happened in Palisade in California. The strong wind is what helps promote these fires and spread rapidly. So it's very dangerous.